Hi guys, it's Heather, the Butterfly Effect, plant-based extreme weight loss, with another video for you. And today my topic is intermittent fasting. And I've actually talked about intermittent fasting before in one of my videos, but I have recently learned a lot more about it and about its health benefits. And it goes so far beyond just helping you to lose weight that I really wanted to share this information because I'm super excited about it. I've got some notes in front of me, so I'm going to be referring to my notes, so please forgive me for looking away. But what got me excited about this again is I saw a TED Talk that was Dr. Mark Mattson, who is a brain researcher who was talking about the effects of intermittent fasting on some in some lab and mice studies that they've done. And I want to go on record as saying I'm very against animal testing. I am an ethical vegan and I don't believe in animal testing, but I am interested in the results of this research. So I just wanted to get that out there. I think it's a really horrible thing that animals suffer in laboratories for us, but nevertheless, here's the information that I got. So we've known for a very long time that if you reduce a person's caloric intake, or a rat's or a mouse's, by 30 to 40%, you can increase their lifespan, that they will live longer, by 30 to 40%. So reducing caloric intake actually results in a longer lifespan for reasons that aren't completely known but are starting to be explained by the research that I'm going to be telling you. Fasting is a very ancient practice. It is part of every major religion. Practices fasting for spiritual reasons, and so it's mentioned in the Bible, it's mentioned in the Quran, in both the Old and the New Testament in the Bible. So it was part of the Judeo tradition, the Hebrew, and also the Christian tradition later on. So it's definitely been around for a really long time, and there's some reasons that that probably is the case. Fasting does good things for the brain and the body. Plato fasted. Pythagoras, who did the Pythagorean theorem, he fasted. He was a big proponent of fasting. And even there's an inscription on a tomb in ancient Egypt that says, "Man lives on a quarter of the food that he eats, and his doctor lives on the other 3/4." Saying that we eat way too much. We eat way too much for health, and they knew this even at the times that they built the pyramids. They realized that we just consume more than we really need to, and it has shortened our lifespan. So how does fasting benefit the body? Well, fasting benefits the body by reducing inflammation, reducing oxidative stress on our organs. So just like when you cut an apple and then the apple turns brown, that's oxidation. Our cells are also subject to oxidation and rotting because of the presence of oxygen. And what happens when you fast is that you shift your energy metabolism from burning sugar to burning fat for fuel. And so for the first about 10 to 12 hours after a person eats, you are running on sugar in the form of glycogen, which is stored in your liver. I know this is pretty heavy duty on the science, but stay with me. I swear it's worth it. Okay, so it takes about 10 to 12 hours to bring that down, and so that you're burning only fat. Okay, now you're burning fat, and that produces some helpful substances called ketone bodies. Now this is very different than when a diabetic goes into ketoacidosis. This is not the same thing at all. ketone bodies are fuel basically for your cells. So like glycogen is a fuel for your cells, ketone bodies are a fuel for your cells. And one interesting thing is your healthy cells can use ketone bodies for fuel. Cancer cells can't. Cancer cells are very dependent on glycogen, and they really need that for fuel. Okay. So here are some of the effects of the body on fasting. In the blood, fasting decreases insulin, IGF-1, which is I believe that's the inflammation growth factor, and leptin, the thing that makes you hungry. It increases ketones and adiponectin and ghrelin. So I don't know what all these things mean, but I know that it increases your insulin sensitivity in your liver. It in your intestines, it reduces your energy uptake. We use a lot of energy digesting food, so people who are fasting or intermittent fasting also say that they have a lot more energy, and that's because we use a lot of the energy from the food we take in, just burning that fuels for, burning that food for fuel and breaking it down into its components. It reduces your blood pressure. It increases your stress resistance. It reduces your resting heart rate, which is good for your heart. For fat cells, it increases lipolysis. That is fat burning, people. That is good for weight loss. It reduces leptin, all those things I just talked about. It makes your muscles be more efficient. So if you're an athlete, you probably want to have more efficient muscles. And it reduces inflammation in your muscles too, so you have faster recovery after you work out. Okay, so ketone bodies are particularly good for the brain. Neurons are nerve cells in your brain and other places in your body, and they are produced from stem cells, and they grow out their axons and their dendrites, which are their little fingers on the neurons, and they form connections with other neurons called synapses. That's how they communicate, how they talk to each other. And so fasting is a challenge to your brain. It's a small stress on your brain, and so it reacts by making more of these dendrites and axons. It grows them out and increases the synapses ability to communicate, so that it's going to help you find food. That's what it thinks it's doing. And the same thing happens if you exercise strenuously. That also has the effect of increasing the activity in your neurons. And also if you have a cognitive challenge, like learning how to speak a new language, or do, the famous one is do a crossword, or listen to a really challenging YouTube video. But it's very interesting. This probably helped people through evolution, because people needed to have when they were in periods of fasting or famine, they had to have increased brain activity and be really smart to be able to find food again, so that they, didn't die. So some of the specific things that he talks about is these neurotropic factors. Neurotropic means increasing nerves, making them grow. There's something called BDNF, which is a brain-derived neurotropic factor, and I'm not going to go into it, but we know also that ketones suppress epilepsy. They suppress seizures in people with epilepsy, and so ketogenic diets have been used with great success with people with severe epilepsy. It can help you develop more mitochondria in your nerves, which is the powerhouses that give you energy. So one thing that I think is really exciting is, and I touched on it just a little bit, is about how intermittent fasting could maybe help prevent cancer, because basically healthy cells, when you're fasting, they kind of hibernate, but cancerous cells can't hibernate. They're stuck in on. They're stuck in the on mode. They don't know how to die, and they don't know how to turn themselves off. And so we can use that because those cancer cells are very dependent on glycogen for fuel, and they can't use the ketone bodies, and they starve to death or at least become weakened, and then your immune system can take care of them. This scientist Longo says, the cell is in fact committing cellular suicide. What we're seeing is that a cancer cell tries to compensate for the lack of the fuel, and how does it usually do it? It goes after a healthy cell, but it can't because there's everything missing, and so it's trying to replace it, but it can't replicate. It doesn't have enough energy to do that. So it can keep it from growing, and it can also starve it to death. And they say that people who are trying to prevent cancer, intermittent fasting can improve your sensitivity to insulin and reduce insulin resistance, which has been linked to several kinds of cancer and diabetes. If diabetes type 2, where you have insulin resistance, intermittent fasting increases the sensitivity to insulin, and it helps treat PCOS. I know several people who have PCOS. It also is helpful in conditions like that because it reduces inflammation. People who have conditions that have inflammation as a big part of them, such as arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, fibromyalgia, lupus. And I just want to stop and say, I am absolutely not a doctor. I am not giving out medical advice. This is just research that I got from a guy who did a TED Talk, who happens to be a doctor, but I'm just saying what I'm doing. There's 3 different kinds of intermittent fasting, and I'm going to describe them, and then I'm going to tell you which ones I've done and which ones I'm currently doing. So the first one is called alternate day intermittent fasting, and that's when you eat a normal healthy meal, hopefully a plant-based vegan meal, one day, and then the next day you either go without food at all and just have like water or black coffee or black tea or some other beverages with no calories. And so you alternate days, one day eating, one day not eating. And a modified form of that, kind of like with the training wheels on, is you could have eat normally one day healthy, and then on the next day have one meal of less than 500 calories, and eat that all in one meal. Don't spread your 500 calories out for the day, because the idea is to have the longest period that you can tolerate without eating, so that you can deplete those glycogen stores and start burning fat and start producing those ketone bodies that are so beneficial. Okay, so that's alternate day intermittent fasting. The next one is called 5-2, and this is very popular with, I'm told it's popular with like bodybuilders and stuff, and it's the same kind of thing. You eat a normal, healthy, plant-based vegan diet for 5 days, and then for the 2 days of the weekend, say, or just any 2 days, but it's good to have them be consecutive days, not like Wednesday and Saturday, but like Saturday and Sunday, or any 2 days, Monday, Tuesday. You either eat nothing at all and just do water or no calorie beverages, or alternatively you can do what I call the training wheels method, where you eat 500 calories all in one meal, and try to just do that at the same time each day, if you're going to do it 2 days in a row. So like 8 in the morning, or 5 in the evening, but both days at the same time, so you again get the maximum amount of time between the episodes of eating, so you can deplete your glycogen again. And then the final kind of intermittent fasting is called eating in the box, or eating in the window, or I've heard it called different things, but That's basically where you pick an 8-hour window of time. Let's say I started eating at 8 in the morning. I would stop eating by 4 o'clock in the afternoon so that I would have 16 hours to, 12 hours to burn off my glycogen, and then 4 hours would be fat burning and ketone body producing. Okay. You could also, a lot of people aren't hungry when they wake up in the morning. And so alternatively, if you're not a person who wants breakfast, maybe you eat that first meal of the day at 11 a.m. And then that would mean that you could continue eating until 7 p.m., which a lot of people like to have dinner with their family. So that would enable you to have that ritual of the family meal. And not interfere with your social life so much. And you can really adjust that window however you want. So those are 3 different ideas for intermittent fasting. I always was, I guess, fearful of intermittent fasting because I had heard that it could produce metabolic damage. But all of this research is pointing out that it does not cause metabolic damage, because it's intermittent. We're not going day after day in starvation mode. We're breaking up the periods of fasting with periods of eating normally, which prevents you from having that metabolic damage that might otherwise result from being in a starvation mode, having your body think that you're in starvation mode and hold on to every calorie. So I myself have been in the past, I have done in the box intermittent fasting, where you do the 8-hour period where you keep all your eating in there. And that is what I do on the days when I do eat. I have switched over to alternate day fasting, which is where I eat a normal, healthy, vegan meal, 3 meals with no snacks in an 8-hour period on one day. And then the next day, I just have water, black coffee, black tea for the 24 hours, and then the next day normal, the next day intermittent fasting. And I am finding it really helpful as far as reducing my weight, and I'm going to do a weight update tomorrow, so tune in for that video to find out how it's been going. But over the last 2 weeks, I have had a lot of progress doing this. I don't find it that difficult to stick to. If you want to try it, I suggest the in the box kind first, because the other kinds can be tough if you've never experienced fasting or going without food for any while. And yeah, I definitely think that it's worth a try if you haven't tried it. If you have tried it, please leave me a comment and tell me how it went for you. You could leave a comment and say how you are going to try it, or that you might want to try it, and whether you think you'll start, which kind you think you'll try. But I really encourage you to give it a shot, because the evidence is in, and I don't know what else could be better than a prolonged life and being so helpful for so many health conditions that people suffer from, and very effective for weight loss also. All right, you guys have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.